So we are in a transitional calendar scheduling period here. And I
Yes.
actually didn't know that we were recording today.
Oh,
I, for some reason, thought that we were not. So I'm here, but I haven't read for writing group yet, which is right after this.
oh.
So I'm going to do that at some point.
In the middle of the podcast? I
Yeah.
just have to entertain people for like 30
Yeah,
minutes?
I'm going to sit here and I'm going to read chunks of Stormlight 5 silently to myself while Brandon does a song and dance for you.
I'm not the best at song and dance. I will admit.
Yeah.
Emily will sometimes be like, sing a song, and usually the best I can come up with is Santoki. I did that on the podcast.
Santoki?
Yeah, Santoki is mountain rabbit. It's a Korean like nursery rhyme.
Figured.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway.
But we have a food heist dish thing.
Yeah, so we have already created brackets.
Yes.
For the promised brackets for episode 104.
Is it 104 or 105 that we'll do it?
I thought we said we were going to do it in 104.
Okay.
To end
the
year.
Yeah, okay.
The 2 years.
104.
And so we've already created those brackets, and now I'm going to ruin them.
Yes, because you're going to
ready?
give us another potential
I'm going to give
entry.
you one that absolutely belongs in the brackets.
So you're saying Scar, who did sweat and blood and tears listening to our podcast, which is very, very difficult.
Which is onerous
Yes.
at best.
And created this bracket for us, is now going to have to
alter it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Because it's a food theft that has just enough planning to it that I'm going to call it a heist.
I'll let it be a heist. You warned me what it was going to be, because we were trying to remember if we talked about it before.
The reason this is so awesome is that it is perpetrated not by humans, but by elephants. So,
heist performed by elephants.
Heist performed by elephants. Monkeys, you expect, obviously, they're going to do a heist.
I mean,
right?
Look at them. Yeah.
Foxes,
yeah.
Heist all the time.
Yeah.
Famous for their heists.
Mm-hmm.
An elephant, though, that's a little more unexpected.
Yes, but elephants are just so intelligent that
they are intelligent.
I mean, if you need my parrot could never pull off a heist, and he's very smart because he's too impulsive. He sees the thing and he takes it. He's not going to plan how to get the thing. But an elephant.
Did you see the video that was going around Reddit a few days ago of a little girl who trained her parrot to pull her loose teeth out of her mouth?
Yes, I've seen that before, yeah. Yep.
I think that sounds very clever, but at the same time, I shudder to think of going into a house where there is a bird trained to rip teeth out of your mouth.
Yeah, I saw that and I thought...
Like, if any of your kids train Jell-O to do that,
yeah,
I will just never visit you again.
I saw that. It was a cockatoo, and I'm like, is that... How do you even get them trained on that?
I don't know.
But, the new thing... We're not talking about parrots, but the new thing with parrots is Skyping parrots to call one another.
Parrots can talk to each other over Skype.
Yes, that's a new thing that they're doing with parrots. Parrot Kindergarten is the website. I have not deeply investigated it, but I learned about from our mutual friend Mary Robinette, who said, "Have you seen this?
You seen this?"
And I went and watched some.
Parrots
of the
love
things.
Skype.
Mm-hmm.
They will not use Zoom.
No.
And there are some species of talking bird that will just FaceTime, but everyone makes fun of those ones.
Jell-O, he might be willing to do it because he sure does like talking to the bird in the mirror.
Yeah, well,
I think he figures out after just a minute or two, this is just me, because he can't get it to do anything except what he's doing, and he loses interest.
Yeah.
But when he first sees the bird in the mirror, he's like, oh, hey.
So if he sees a bird on a Skype call, is he gonna think at first that it's a mirror?
I don't know, because when he first sees the mirror, he thinks it's another bird.
Every time.
Yeah. It takes him a few minutes. He gets really excited. He goes and talks to them. He says hello. He does his tricks. And then they just keep doing the exact same thing, and then he just wanders away.
This bird just knows the same tricks I know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to learn anything of value.
So,
all right. So you want to hear about the elephants?
I do.
So I don't know exactly where this takes place.
You tried to look it up beforehand.
I tried to look it up. Yeah. The article from the Hindustani Times, if that tells you anything, dear listener, whereabouts it might be, but the article itself does not list a location anywhere.
Yep.
But it is in this region, clearly against the law to hit an elephant. They have right of way on the road.
Yes, as they should.
As they should.
Yes.
And so there are some elephants who've figured this out and know that they're not going to get hit. And so they stand on the side of the road, and there's video. You can watch them. They just kind of stand there watching cars go by until a truck carrying sugarcane comes along, and then they step out in front of it and wait for it to stop, and then they start stealing sugarcane off of it. Which, if you've got at least 2 elephants working in concert, that's a heist, right?
Absolutely.
You distract them. You're the fancy elephant that's going to distract them up front. You're the face elephant.
Yeah.
And then the thief elephant behind is going to steal some sugarcane and off
split
they
the goods.
go.
Yeah. I mean,
presumably there's a mastermind elephant hiding in the trees.
Mastermind elephant hiding in the trees.
Maybe a hacker elephant.
Hiding in the trees.
Yeah, it's a jungle. You can hide an elephant in the jungle.
Yeah. There's a magic card about that. Do you remember this one? It's called Elephant Ambush. And it is an elephant hiding behind a tree very poorly. But yeah. Someone got the description and the name of the card and thought, all right, we just have to have fun with this. So obviously, I mean, they haven't arrested these elephants?
No.
Diplomatic immunity, I assume. Different nation, different species.
It might be that's what it is.
Yeah. You got to suffer the elephants.
Which to some degree feels unfair to put them in the same bracket as the humans, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they should have their own bracket.
Yeah, I mean, they can go on our bracket. I'm just thinking about food heist prison. They're never going to go there. They got diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're playing with a different set of rules. Elephant privilege.
Elephant privilege.
Elephant privilege. But now I'm imagining that not only is there a mastermind elephant who's like in the trees watching this all take place.
Yeah.
There's a hacker elephant somewhere, right? Who like knocked down a light pole over a cross street, funneling the sugarcane trucks down this road. This is very elaborate.
I mean, obviously.
And the fact that the article doesn't mention any of these peripheral elephants only proves how good they are at their jobs.
They didn't get caught. They're hiding behind the trees. Yeah, obviously.
There's the last leverage member is the hitter, is Elliot. So there's got to be like a elephant thug somewhere who's waiting to. If the cops do show up, the elephant bruiser is there to.
Do they have
fight them off? I don't know.
In Canada, they have Mounties. Do they have like police on elephants? They could be like the elephant police.
I hope so, because that sounds awesome.
Then,
like genuinely, that sounds great.
Arrested by the elephant police. I mean, that's obviously kind of a cross species, work together sort of, thing.
Well, it's also worth pointing out, Elliot on Leverage never actually beat up like cops, as far as I remember. He was mostly fighting other bad guys.
That's true. The elephants who want this territory.
The elephant. Bruiser is the one that fights off like the other elephant gang, the other thief group.
I got a name for him.
Okay.
The Snackaderms.
That's amazing. The Snackaderms. This is not only now an amazing story idea, this is an entire Saturday morning cartoon show.
I mean, yeah. The Snackaderms.
The Snackaderms.
You got food heist elephants.
Okay, we officially trademarked this. I declare trademark.
That's how it works. Yep.
And we're going to produce this.
The Snackaderms.
The Snackaderms.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'm canceling all my other projects that I do here at Dragonsteel so that I can create the Snackaderms half-hour cartoon show.
All our concept artists, forget all that stuff you've been doing. Epic Fantasy's out.
We're this now.
Give me
we
Snackaderm.
Are now an animation company creating Snackaderms. There's got to be at least 4. We just described 5.
How have you turned?
We differentiate them.
This
slightly.
Is like the ultimate crossover. You have turned the food heist into a bad story idea.
Oh, I have not. You did it when you called them the Snackaderms.
I was naming them because all of our great food heist, mafia groups.
Great ones have names.
But
right? Also, that name tells a story all by itself. Like, I can see the logo in my head, and I am very excited.
Oh, dear. This is going to win the bracket.
Oh.
The last one should not win the bracket. Everyone needs to go listen to the other things.
You have to listen to all of them.
You can only, we'll only put up 2 each week.
Okay.
Right. Well, we'll show you the whole bracket, but then it'll be.
But then vote week
the
by
vote
week
will be
in the bracket.
One of the bad story ideas versus another. The seeds, we'll start with probably the like the seeds in the middle that are very close, and then it'll move to the more extremes because the upsets are more exciting. So you want those later on, and then we'll have one food heist, and we'll every week have one of each for you to vote on to advance to the bracket. That way you don't have to get overwhelmed. Therefore, you can just jump back and listen to the little clips. But,
and I think that once people listen to them,
yes,
the bias towards the new will wear off because Snackaderms is awesome, undoubtedly, but also the Edelstahlkugel, like all these other things that happened, they're pretty amazing. The Gardener. The Alligator Ranch and the Hurricane.
We came up with a name for the Alligator Ranchers. Do you remember what it was?
I don't remember what it was.
Oh, man, we're going to have to look that up. It's got to be on the bracket.
It'll be in the bracket.
Is it on the bracket?
He's already done the work.
Scar, do you remember what we named the Alligator Ranch? The Ranchers?
You named it because of the salad dressing.
Oh, did we just call them the Ranchers?
Yeah.
Oh.
Get a ranch because of the salad dressing.
Okay.
Which was hard to follow, but hey.
I don't know.
Sometimes we're hard to follow.
Disappointing.
Yeah, that is a little. I thought we came up with.
I wish we had a better name.
Like 2 episodes ago, I thought we came up with a new name.
A new name for them?
Yeah.
Because we weren't going to call, like, whoever's the leader was not going to be the Dawn.
Yeah.
It was going to be the something else.
Mm-hmm.
I think people in the YouTube comments suggested Papa or something, like kind of a go for a French Creole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which could be good.
That is good. I swear we came up with something new a couple weeks ago. We're going to have to go back and listen.
Well,
Scar will look it up.
We hire people to look these things up for us.
So, we actually have a topic for today, 12 minutes into our episode.
Believe it or not.
The Snackaderms has indeed
derailed everything. As they are wont to do.
Yeah, I mean, we got to stop in place when there's a Snackaderm in front of you. It's the law.
Oh, man. Every episode of the show is just them standing in front of a different car. They only have one plan, and it's, they make other plans.
Yeah.
They make countless other plans, and they all fall apart, and inevitably they're like, well, let's just try standing in front of it. See if that works. And then it does. Anyway, our actual topic is we're going to talk about disappointing media.
So, yeah, this was my idea. I was curious what the most disappointed you've ever been in the middle of like a movie or a TV show or things like that. And I came up with it was actually hard for me because my number 1 is really easy.
Okay.
And my number 2 is really easy. Number 3 was kind of hard for me. There's a whole bunch of things, and then there's a bunch of honorable mentions that I thought don't deserve to be on this list. So I thought maybe we could start with one of my honorable mentions to explain why.
Okay.
Because
sounds great.
I
have some honorable mentions as well.
Great. So my first honorable mention is episode 1. Because we weren't disappointed when we watched it.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't fit the criteria. Later on, I had a growing disappointment in the experience. But in that theater, that opening night, with everybody waving lightsabers and having waited 20 years for Star Wars or something, it was still a magical time that I don't remember anyone disliking the experience.
Yeah. We all really kind of loved it. We floated out of that theater on a high. I absolutely put Star Wars prequels as one of my honorable mentions as well. Kind of refrigerator logic, disappointing.
Yeah.
They were not what I hoped they would be. They were not as something. But yeah, in the moment, all of that childhood magic was still there.
Yeah.
I was a little boy, and it was great.
Which is why when the kind of pop culture redemption of the prequels began, I was initially surprised, but then actually, there's things to love there because I legitimately enjoyed the experience of going. Yeah. It was just it didn't hold up for a second view. When I watched it the second time, I'm like,
really?
Yeah.
So for me, and the thing is, I don't think that they are bad movies. In part precisely, and that's okay. I don't think they're well-made movies. But here's the thing. I firmly believe that any art that has fans is ultimately good art because it has reached an audience. It has kind of done its purpose.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I can call it like... I think there's room for nuance there.
Absolutely. There totally is.
Right? I agree with you that art that finds its fans, but if those very fans admit it's not very well made, you've got a huge caveat, right?
For sure. For sure. Basically, what I'm saying is, I know that a lot of people love those movies. And for me, and there's going to be counterexamples to this, but for me, I think it's just... They are new movies, and they affect a new generation of fans differently than they affect us.
Maybe.
Right?
I mean, the redemption of the prequels happening as the sequels fell apart in different ways. I am more interested in watching a prequel than a sequel. And so it's not just Star Wars is good, whatever Star Wars, right? Like there's, anyway. So there's something there, but it was not disappointing. In fact, I watched all three, and I can remember walking out of number 2 and being like, number 1 wasn't that good, but number 2 was great. And number 2
really?
Yeah.
I had the opposite reaction.
You? Okay.
I walked out of number 1, with the same kind of high that we were just talking about. Even in the theater after number 2, I was like, yeah, this wasn't very good, was it? I remember the specific arguments that I was using with my friends as we kind of tried to talk ourselves into liking it.
Okay.
Like at the end when they say, we have the secret plans for the super weapon, and it turns out it's the Death Star. And I was like, okay, yes, you're right. That's what Star Wars is about. It's this big over-the-top adventure story with big crazy things, which really was just me trying to talk myself into enjoying an experience that I didn't really enjoy.
Because I do think number 2 is the worst of them. In hindsight.
Down.
And I remember walking out of number 3 and saying, well, number 1 and number 2 weren't very good, but this is definitely the best of them. And it has like an absurdly high Rotten Tomatoes score. So I wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
But then afterward, I'm like, man, a lot of the worst memes still come from the third.
The third one.
I mean, the worst of the worst come from the second. But yeah.
Yeah, I like Revenge of the Sith a lot. I've never seen it again. I saw it the one time, and I thought, yeah, that's definitely the best of the prequels.
I mean, it is.
Easily.
It is.
And I've just never gone back to watch it again.
So anyway, what's your honorable mention? We probably talked Star Wars way too much.
Star Wars. And this is super boring as well. But my next honorable mention is actually Phase 4 of the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
Which... I have it as an honorable mention and not an actual disappointment because it's hard to compare to the 1-2 punch of Infinity War and Endgame, right?
Yep.
The culmination of 10 years and 22, 23 movies, whatever it was, like that was a phenomenal achievement. And I can understand why the next stuff to come out isn't hitting the same way. And so I cut them some slack. I think they've made some big narrative errors and artistic errors, but I don't really hate any of the Phase 4 stuff. I just don't really love it either.
Yeah, I can't really put it on the list because I've never been disappointed really in any of the media as I've been watching it again, right? And again, WandaVision is one of my favorite pieces of media in the MCU.
It's very good.
And the third Spider-Man movie is legit great. I think. I know you disagree. And so for me, but the whole Phase 4 is falling flat for me. So, and I think that's a lot of people.
It's got pieces that I love. And the thing is, no matter how many times I get kind of bored and meh and go, oh, well, that really wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Even so, when a new trailer comes out, I get incredibly hyped every single time. Like the new trailer for the Marvels, that looks phenomenal to me. So,
but I mean, it says something that for a while, MCU was my favorite media property going, and I still have not seen the last 2 movies.
I have not either. I haven't seen Love and Thunder. I haven't seen Black Panther. I haven't seen Quantumania. So that's 3.
I did see Love and Thunder. I'm an apologist for Love and Thunder. So once you watch it, we should talk about it. A year late, because that's how we do things. If you do watch it, but I am an apologist for that movie.
Okay.
It's definitely not great. I see studio meddling more than I see anything else in that one. There are some great parts about it. And it's Taika Waititi just being fun, and I enjoy that. But like I said, I'll be an apologist for that movie. But the whole Phase 4, okay. Honorable mention for me.
Okay.
Golden Compass.
Movie or TV show or both?
Movie.
Mm-hmm. I never actually watched either of them.
Oh, haven't you? Okay.
But I have not heard wonderful things about either of them.
So the reason it's an honorable mention is, and not an actual disappointment, is it is a bad movie. But number one, I'd heard that it was really bad going into it, so my expectations were commensurate with the experience. And number two, as I've talked about before, the Golden Compass is like a masterclass in how to make a bad adaptation while trying to do your very best and lovingly treating the source material well, right?
Yeah.
Like Starship Troopers is the opposite. How to make a kind of awesome adaptation while completely betraying the vision and destroying the author's intent in a way that is just, we've talked about, just grossly insulting. Whereas Golden Compass is the opposite. Every casting choice was inspired. They tried really hard. They were slavish in trying to keep the stories from the book onto the screen, and in so doing made a boring movie, because adapting book to screen, if you aren't careful, will just be boring because the pacing is different. And so it's an honorable mention because of those two things. It doesn't rise to the heights of like me sitting there watching it being enormously disappointed and let down.
Yep, that's totally fair.
Any other honorable mentions from you?
I do. I have one more honorable mention, and it is dragon fruit. Have you had dragon fruit?
Oh, like the fruit, the food?
The actual food.
Oh, yeah. Fruit. Okay. This is a cool one.
It's called dragon fruit, which sounds amazing.
It should be. It looks cool, too.
And then you see it, and it's this cool thing with, it's red, and it has scales on it. It almost looks like a dragon egg. You can tell where they got the name. You cut it open, and it's this gorgeous, like, stark white thing with all these little black seeds in it. Like, it is a visually compelling fruit all around. And it doesn't taste bad, but it tastes boring. Like there's a reason it's not in all the fruit compilations, right?
Yeah, like the pantheon of fruit flavors.
Yeah.
Dragon fruit doesn't manage.
Dragon fruit looks and sounds so cool, and you eat it and you're like, oh, well, I guess that's okay.
Before this episode, audience, Dan was like, I think I might put a TV show on. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's totally fine. Secretly, he's writing down a fruit.
A fruit. Dragon fruit is very disappointing.
I mean, okay. I agree with you. I can't even conjure the flavor, though I know I've had it before.
Yeah.
You're a bizarre dude, and I really am happy you put that on your list. Here I am thinking hard about media properties, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna get that fruit.
I thought of honestly too many media properties, and I'm like, come on, I got to do something else. And I didn't want to do a book because I don't like to badmouth books and authors. So dragon fruit gets it.
My last honorable mention is Rings of Power.
Rings of Power.
Doesn't make it onto disappointing, despite me multiple episodes being very disappointed in, because the parts that I liked, I really liked.
Yeah.
So
I will say I like it. I like it less and less.
It's no longer an 8?
I definitely today would not give it an 8.
Not giving an 8? Where are you? 7.9? Is that what it means?
We're down at least to a 7 at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. I loved the experience of watching it. The act of sitting next to my wife and watching all the episodes and thinking, oh, yay, this is cool. It was experientially delightful and narratively kind of abysmal.
Okay.
And I think that's why, similar to the prequels, right? It's finally kicking in later as I think, oh, wait, very little of this holds together, regardless of how much fun I had watching it. And there's an argument to be made that the fun you have watching it is the point, right?
Depends. It was me snickering at some of the ridiculous things that were happening on the screen, completely not buying in.
Yeah.
Does that count as fun? I do.
No. And obviously the best art, the great art, is something like the original Lord of the Rings that inspires generations and sticks around forever. And it is fun in the moment and afterwards rather than just one or the other.
So do you want to go to my list? Or do you want to do your list?
Should we go back and forth like this?
Yeah.
All right. So you want to hear my first one?
I want to hear your third.
This is my third one.
I want to count up to your most disappointing
to the
experience.
most disappointing. Yeah. Boy. Okay. You ready for this? Here's my third most disappointing thing. Veronica Mars seasons 2 and 3.
Okay. I've heard this before.
Have you watched season 1?
I have never seen Veronica Mars.
Even the people... Like, most people like season 2 a lot more than I do. Season 3 is where it genuinely really just falls apart.
Okay.
The thing is, the first season of Veronica Mars is one of the most brilliant and wonderful things I've seen on TV. And then season 2 does that hard reset of most of the characters and development and says, remember that love triangle in the first season that you loved so much? We're just going to do that again rather than realistically advance forward from the same point where we ended. That kind of thing is rampant in season 2, and the show fell apart for me completely.
I mean, that is the big downfall of network television. That's why there are so few greats that aren't comedies, because the comedies, like, Cheers, Seinfeld, things like this, can be episodic, and even if you have arcs, you can they can play out and the comedy can still be there. And anyway, finding full-on dramas or dramedies or things like that don't fall apart in season 2.
It's difficult. It can be done. Justified is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I think it does a phenomenal job. Better Call Saul, same thing. But Veronica Mars just did not know what to do with itself. It had one story to tell, and it told it flawlessly, and then they got renewed and were like, well, crap, what do we do now?
It's interesting because my number 3 is very similar.
Okay.
It is Lost. Yeah. Lost season 1, I think, is just one of these perfect pieces of media. Beautifully well done, narratively interesting, always doing something new, very few, if any, duds, interesting use of flashbacks, and really kind of using the JJ Mystery Box to its fullest for what it can do in storytelling. And keeping the focus on the characters and their arcs so that you don't get tired of the constant mystery. I really legitimately loved Lost Season 1. And somewhere in the middle of Lost Season 2, it just completely fell apart for me. They started... And some of this isn't their fault, right? There was a writer's strike. There were actors who wanted to leave the show that they had to write out. But the way they went about doing it, they started resetting arcs. They started, so Charlie, I don't know if you've seen Lost.
I've seen like one episode of Lost.
So the Hobbit in Lost. He has...
Oh, yeah. Mary's in it, huh?
Yep. He has a fantastic arc through season 1, kind of learning to deal with his drug addiction and get over it and things like that. And then like season 2, it's like, oh, he found more heroin. He's back to being,
being a mess again.
They started to fix it by adding a new character who was a drug runner, who was kind of behind, these drugs appearing. And then they killed that character off, the best new character, because he wanted to leave the show.
Yeah.
And they killed off some characters in really annoying ways. They left around other ones who just grew more and more annoying. The show just completely fell apart for me. Season 1 was an event. Every episode when it came out for myself.
I remember you and your roommates, Ben and Earl, and everybody would watch it religiously. This was back when you had to watch TV when it came out.
It was actually not even, I think I was married by this. It was me and Emily and people coming to our house.
Okay.
Yeah. Peanut Gallery, Lost Season 1. 2006, 2007. When is it?
I think it was earlier than that, but I don't actually know. So
there.
Okay.
2004. All right, so it was with Earl and them.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, you're right. It must have been one of something else I'm thinking of getting together. But
might just be you watched the later seasons married.
Yeah,
remember those.
Yeah, I mean,
did you stick with it all the way through to the end?
I was dead by season 3. Yeah. By season 3, I'm like, I just cannot do this anymore. Watching every episode is painful because I remember how great it used to be.
Yeah, I didn't actually make it to season 3 of Veronica Mars for that reason.
All right, what's your number 2?
Okay, number 2, Quantum of Solace.
Oh, really? Interesting choice.
The second,
yes, the water one
of the James Bond movies with Craig. What's his name?
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Yep.
So Casino Royale came out and blew everyone's mind right out of their head. It was one of the best James Bond movies ever. Arguably the best James Bond movie. It changed the way we thought about Bond. It was, frankly, one of the best action movies many people had ever seen. So many brilliant, wonderful, incredible things about it. It added depth and characterization to what had previously mostly just been flashy glitz and glamour. It was so good. And then Quantum of Solace was a direct sequel that actually continued the same story, and everyone was very excited about that until about 20 minutes in when we realized this is one of the dullest things ever made. So there are very few movies that I have literally fallen asleep in the middle of, and Quantum of Solace is one of them.
Quantum of Solace is not great. I will agree with you there. I would still rather watch it than some of the years preceding where Bond went full on camp. And so I give it a little bit more of a pass. It's definitely not Casino Royale. It's definitely not Skyfall, which
Skyfall is my favorite Bond movie.
Those are the two best of the new ones, but there are not really any bad ones other than maybe Quantum of Solace. Like the new one, we should maybe talk sometime. I liked. It has huge flaws, but I liked it.
Yeah. We could do a whole Bond episode.
Yes, we
could.
We
could do a whole No Time to Die episode.
Yep.
I think I disagree with the assertion. I would rather watch like one of the campy, crappy ones like Moonraker than Quantum of Solace. Because Quantum of Solace, Moonraker and its ilk are dumb, but Quantum of Solace is genuinely boring.
I was kind of more like Moonraker, I actually kind of consider in the so campy it's good category.
Okay, that's
I'm
fair.
talking about when they were like the Pierce Brosnan era. I really was waiting for him. And some of his films are good, but as he went, they
some of them are
tried to
really
be cool
bad.
and campy at the same time and didn't know they were campy. They just thought they were cool, and it started to get really painful.
Yeah, some of those are terrible. Some of those I recognize that they're terrible while still loving them.
Okay.
I would put GoldenEye in the absolute S tier.
Yeah, GoldenEye
Bond
is good.
Movies.
Yeah.
We definitely need to do a Bond movie. It's
I'm gonna have to go watch. I
Cast
haven't
at some
watched
point.
like a bunch of them in a long time. It's part of the issue. I know Adam watched them all again. Maybe we need to guest star Adam on that episode because he just did a marathon like last year and watched every Bond.
I will say when I was a kid, my favorite one was Live and Let Die.
Okay.
And I cannot even watch it anymore because it is so racist. And when little 8-year-old Dan Wells did not see any of that, and then he grew up and realized, oh, wow, this is so much worse than I remember.
Yeah, it was a different time. I would go down when I was like 7 or 8, sneak past my mom who was doing accountant things because that's what my mom does. My dad would be watching Bond down in his study, and I would bring my blankets and I would sit down and I would watch Bond with him on the floor. And those movies are not movies that I would show a 7-year-old these days, but it's a different time. So.
There you go.
Yep. So
okay,
that's my memory.
Before we leave Bond, we definitely need to do a Bond episode at some point.
Yes.
But before we leave it now, I'm going to ask, do you have a favorite Bond song?
Do I have a favorite Bond song? Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die.
I really like Live and Let Die.
Friggin'
right?
great.
I mean, that's is that GNR? No, who is that?
No, that's Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. No, I'm thinking of the actual. I'm thinking of the actual metal song that has the same title. It is not "Live and Let Die."
It's not "Live and Let Die." I mean, "Live and Let Die" is an amazing song.
It is an amazing song, but I'm conflating the two. I'd have to think about it. No. I think that people can confirm in the comments. I think that I am thinking of a metal song that I conflated with being that is not actually. I have to go listen to them and see. I think I'm thinking of like a Megadeth song or something like that.
The title sounds like "Live and Let Die"?
Yeah, the same.
Oh.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, you said "Live and Let Die." Oh, I know a song like that. I really listened to that a lot when I was a kid, but I don't think it's the Bond theme.
Okay.
I would have to listen to a bunch of them and decide.
I actually
a lot of them are pretty good.
Back when albums were a thing, I bought an album on CD that was all the Bond songs up to that point.
Oh, cool.
And so I think it was just prior to Daniel Craig, so it didn't have "You Know My Name," which is definitely a top tier Bond song.
Okay.
But it had up through some or all of the Brosnan ones.
Yeah.
And so I have listened to a lot of them a lot.
Okay. And I'm not going to look for it right now.
Yeah.
People will know in the comments because the internet is collectively very smart.
Collectively.
Yes.
All right.
Are we on my number two?
What's your number two?
My number two is the Winter Dragon.
What's the Winter Dragon?
Oh, the Winter Dragon. I am on tour in Japan.
Okay.
It's a trip to Taiwan. I told you the story where lightning strike go to Japan for a day, right? I'm in Japan, and my phone lights up with texts and emails, and I'm like, it's 2 a.m. Hot back home. Why are people like something? Like I'm like, did we make first contact? What's going on? And I read, and people are like, did you see? Did you see? Did you hear? Did you see? They all know I'm usually up at that time. They didn't know I was in Japan. And I'm like, what is this? The pilot for the Wheel of Time television show dropped on like TNT 5. Like like TNT 2 or something.
Was it
like that.
Spoof or something?
No, it was an ash can. So what it was rights were about to lapse. The producers will say, we just wanted to prove it could be done. So we filmed this and things like that, so that, a proof of concept. And we thought it was so good that we would then release it. Release it by buying paid space on TNT2 at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Not announcing to the fandom it was coming. Not telling Harriet or me. They don't have to tell me, but they have to tell Harriet, right?
Yeah.
That this is coming. And then they launch it, and it's Billy Zane, and it's like one set, a dark room, and an hour or a half hour. It felt like an hour. It might have been a half hour. Maybe it was a full hour of just monologuing, that filming the prologue to Eye of the World.
Okay, so not even a trailer, but like a teaser of episode 1 or something.
A full episode 1.
Wow.
A full episode 1. Filmed like in an afternoon on a single soundstage with one set and no props. Basically no costuming, just what they had in the closet off the rack.
Yeah, and these are done, if you don't know what an ash can is, because their rights are about to expire, but if they can produce and release something, and that is key to it, it kind of automatically renews that rights for a certain amount of time.
Yes. Famous ash cans that you may want to look up. The Hobbit movie, not the one you're thinking of, not that other one you're thinking of, probably not the third one you think of either. Is a slideshow with narration that was shown, I believe, in New York for one afternoon in order to keep the Hobbit rights. It is delightful. I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, there's a romance between
I know that it's there.
Bilbo and Thorin's daughter.
Oh,
yes,
cool.
Yes, love interest. There's a young female dwarf going on the quest.
The quest.
Yes, none of the other dwarfs, just like Thorin and his daughter and Bilbo.
Okay.
Yeah, there might be one other dwarf, and it's a delightful piece of media that you will cringe at hard. And then the other one being the Fantastic Four that we've talked about, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, which I have seen, and I agree with the general consensus that it is actually kind of good in a fun way. Like, it mixes so bad it's good with like some genuine sort of attempts at making a real movie that it's a delightful watch. Those are two famous
I haven't seen that one. I would like to.
Yeah, we should watch it sometime.
I love the Fantastic Four deeply. They are arguably my favorite comic book
You will
characters.
Actually like this.
Yeah.
The Thing is kind of legit good. Like, they spent all of their zero budget basically buying one of the TMNT costumes. Not really, but those old live action TMNT. That same costume, but made into the Thing. It has mouth articulation. That's cool. Motorized. Someone else is moving it and things like that. So it's like, it's like, I don't know how they could afford that because the rest of the special effects are so bad. Like Mr. Fantastic, it's like, he goes like this, and then they like cut to like a wide shot that's like a prop arm being, pointed toward the camera to the stretching. But they treat the characters pretty well for that.
Okay.
Yeah, we should watch that.
And it can't be worse than the actual Fantastic Four movies that were released.
It is the best Fantastic Four movie I have seen.
Okay.
It's not... It's wonderful, but it's not good. But it is the best Fantastic Four movie, and I have seen most of the Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah.
And I'm going to include, as much as I love Sam Raimi, the Fantastic Four appearance of Mr. Fantastic in the new Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Multiverse of Madness.
Yep.
Okay.
So there you are. That's it's my number two. I heard that there's a Wheel of Time show dropping. The immediate sense of enormous disappointment and horror that I felt for a piece of Wheel of Time media being made ranks it as number two. It's why it was easy to pick my number two. And then I watched it, and then my horror only got worse and worse till I was just kind of laughing in this sort of weird, befuddled way.
Laughing to keep from crying.
Yep.
Well, okay.
What's your number one?
My number one was the modern remake of Clash of the Titans.
Oh, I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
Nope.
It is so bad.
Wow. Is it bad enough that it's enjoyable? Will I like it? Oh.
No.
People always say that. And then people said that about Cats, and Cats is a masterpiece.
It is one we should watch together.
Because the last time I saw original Clash of Titans was in your basement.
I know. We watched it.
Yeah.
And he says my basement. This was back in college, so it was the basement apartment that I lived in.
Yeah.
And we watched it, and we loved it. And we grew up with it, right?
Yes.
And so it's difficult for me to judge the original Clash of the Titans objectively.
Right.
But, growing up in the 80s, we did have like a little mini boom of schlocky fantasy. We had the Conans, we had Krull, we had Beastmaster, and we had Clash of the Titans, which was wonderful. The modern one really just, it's so bad. And it's disappointing in a very Quantum of Solace-y way. There's the theme, is Dan's just bored by these things.
Okay.
You got Liam Neeson as Zeus, and he's dull as paint. You've got, who is it, Ralph Fiennes, I think, as Hades, and he's terrible. I don't know. It's just bad.
Well, my number one is bad for the same reason. One of the very few movies I've ever just turned off because I was bored. Not for any other reason, just I'm like, can we do anything else? And it is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
See, never seen it.
I was hyped to see this movie. I have enjoyed even the Harry Potter movies. I don't like that much because the first two, it has that same problem.
Yeah. I only liked two of the Harry Potter movies.
But I have enjoyed every one of them. John Williams' soundtrack mixed with some cool visuals, mixed with books that I love together, made for a wonderful viewing experience. And all of that magic was just completely gone from Fantastic Beasts. It was dull. It was monotonous. It was kind of a little insulting, which is,
that's too bad.
My wife and I just sat there. We lasted like a half hour, and we're just like, can we turn this off? And I'm glad we did, because we then watched Darkest Hour, instead, which is really great.
Which one is that?
So that is it's fun.
Is that the Churchill movie?
It's the Churchill one.
Okay.
So the night before, we had watched Dunkirk at Dunkirk because we were on vacation.
Oh, that's
cool. I said, we should watch Darkest Hour because it's the other half of Dunkirk from Churchill's viewpoint.
Yeah.
But we wanted something different. We tried Harry Potter. We turned it off. We watched Darkest Hour, and Darkest Hour is legit great. So.
Okay.
I really want to see a supercut of Darkest Hour and Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
Where you're
back and forth.
Darkest
Hour, it's Gary Oldman, right?
Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Just doing an amazing job.
As much as I have come ideologically to really dislike Churchill. And it's worth pointing out that both Darkest Hour and Harry Potter are very fraught with a lot of...
Yes, they are.
A lot of unfortunate attached baggage. As bad of a person ultimately as Churchill was, I genuinely loved John Lithgow's performance as Churchill on The Crown. Did you ever watch The Crown?
I did not watch The Crown.
The Crown is totally a Dan kind of thing. It is a long, decades-long generational story where you watch the characters grow up, and first couple of seasons has John Lithgow, who's an American dude, who hits Winston Churchill out of the park. I think he even won an Emmy for it. And he does just a wonderful job.
Well, there you are. We're way over time on this one, so
but
that's our...
apparently, we really want to talk about things we didn't like.
Well, it is the internet.
Yeah. So go celebrate by eating some dragon fruit.
How's that, Ben?